Hello everyone, back on Channel Manhwa Story. Well, this time we're continuing the story of Return from the Abyss Part 2. Sometime around the year 2000, 20 towers suddenly appeared all over the world. Before people could understand the cause, monsters invaded, almost destroying civilization and causing many casualties. This event became known as Judgment Day. Despite this, a handful of survivors were revived and given access to a mysterious system that gave them extraordinary powers. They rebuilt the social structure, formed a guild of hunters, and life slowly returned to normal. Meanwhile, Sora is still trapped in the world of Abyss. He hunted down a monster dog to find out the number it was wearing. In the middle of the chase, however, Sora was surprised by a chain that restricted the dog's movement. A voice came from behind the chain, warning him to stop using the transfer scroll before his summoned creature appeared. Hearing this, Sora was curious because the voice sounded like a human one. He began to think that maybe this was his way out of this world. When the dog was dragged into the sky, Sora was thrilled to see the hope of return. However, just as one of them jumped into the sky, a warning appeared that ABI's Salsa Menning scroll could only transfer a maximum of 2 beings. As a result, Sora's presence was rejected by the system. However, Sora did not give up. He kept trying to break the chain of light and get close to the dog. Meanwhile, outside the Ice City on Earth, a woman named Yuznazaki was trying to escape. Unfortunately, she stumbled over a vine and fell. She realizes that she is being chased by someone who has the ability to control plants. Her pursuers are Aika and her partner, who order her to hand over a level 60 advanced server scroll, which they consider unworthy of a level 19 player like you. Koji Ido also threatens that if Yu does not hand it over, he will not be spared. Backed into a corner and in a panic, Yu claimed that the fight between the hunters was against the rules. However, Sos Tosida, a level 38 barbarian, laughed at him. He said that he was the one who made the rules in this region. He ordered Yu to hand over the scroll with the promise that he would be allowed to leave in one piece. Under great pressure, Yu uttered a phrase that made Aika suspect that Yu was forcing the activation of the summoning reels. Aware of the situation, Aika asked her partner to stop Yu. Sosei, angry that Yu resisted, immediately drew his sword. But before the slash could hit him, Yu had disappeared. Everyone was shocked. Had Yu used a skill like Flicker, Yu, who had moved on, said that if he had to die, he would take his enemies with him. Sosei realized that this was a forced summoning. Aika panicked as the forcibly summoned top-level monsters could not be controlled. Koji tried to stop the summoning, but it was too late. The summoning scroll was struck by a bolt of lightning, and a great amount of energy was released. The atmosphere became tense. The light from the celestial chain began to fade, and the figure of the summoned monster was finally clearly visible. It turned out to be nothing more than a level 3 Cerberus dog. The bandits laughed and even threw bones at the dog. Yu was disappointed. Why was the creature he summoned so weak? But while he was still confused, the monster's body was suddenly split open by a mysterious arm. A humanoid figure emerged from inside Cerberus' body, surprising everyone. Yu asked if it was human. The figure turned out to be Sora. He was overjoyed to have made it out of the cursed world and laughed loudly to celebrate his success. Sora's laughter sent shivers down the spines of the bandits. They began to wonder who exactly this person was. When Sora looked around and saw that there were humans there, he immediately turned to Aika and asked, "Is this Earth?" When Aika confirmed that it was, Sora was overjoyed that he had finally returned to his home world. Having made it out of the world of Abyss, Sora was surprised by the appearance of the humans around him. He wondered if they were cosplaying. His words offended the bandits, especially Koji, who immediately warned Sora not to underestimate Roar's tiger guild. Without further ado, Koji and Sosei attacked Sora with sword slashes. But their attacks had no effect. Sora just stared at them, scaring Sosei into thinking that Sora was a real monster. Sosei's words only made Sora suspicious that he might not be completely out of Abyss. He also suspects that Sosei might be a monster in disguise and orders him to show his identity number. When Sora chokes Sosei and demands an explanation, Sosei is confused by the question. Realizing that they weren't stupid creatures from Abyss, Sora finally lets go. Sosei even wet her bed out of fear. Sora then ordered them all to leave, and they immediately ran away. Yu, who was still there, continued to watch Sora curiously. He was beginning to believe that Sora wasn't a monster from Abyss, especially when he saw the severe wounds on his body and his incredible strength. Just then, Sora suddenly asked, "How many years has it been since the tower appeared?" Yu replied that it had been 5 years since the mysterious tower had appeared. Hearing this, Sora asked again to confirm that this place was really Earth, and asked about the scrolls and strange clothes Yu was wearing. Yu explained that since the appearance of the towers, a new system had begun to activate in humanity. A third of the city was destroyed by the tower invasion, including Ice City. Fortunately, Yu managed to survive the attack. When Sora found out that Ice City was his hometown, he was shocked and immediately asked about the current state of the city. Yu explained that the city had almost been wiped out, but a strong army had been sent there to destroy the monsters. After knowing the direction to the Ice City, Sora suddenly disappeared without hearing any further explanation. Shocked, Yu could only grumble, but he knew he had to tell his brother about the mysterious figure. Meanwhile, in the Dead City region, the Sosei group made their way to their headquarters. Although they were still upset about Sora's treatment, they were suddenly greeted by the mysterious appearance of the Shadow Master, Petal Pop. The figure said that he could sense their presence in the 4 bandits, and gave them 3 seconds to reveal the whereabouts of the person he was looking for. Sosei, not understanding what this meant, thought it was a joke. But the time was up, and the Shadow Master killed them all in one fell swoop. Ika, Koji, Sosei, and another member were killed instantly. Elsewhere, at the headquarters of the Tiger R's Guild, known as the Tower Front, a servant reported that the Sosei group's life signal had disappeared and that the whereabouts of Yuznazaki and his scroll were unknown. Upon hearing the news, their leader became furious. He was disappointed that the people his servant had recommended were unable to deal with a level 19 novice. The frightened servant explained that the 4 had lost the signal at the same time. From this information, Rich Mokai, a level 118 priest-rom, concluded that they had all been killed in a single attack. He ordered a search for the killers and Yuznazaki's whereabouts, as he would not let anyone touch his people without retribution. As Rich stood and stared out the window, he suddenly felt the presence of someone passing by with a very strong blood aura. He was curious, especially as the figure was heading towards the destroyed area. Realizing that the invasion was different this time, he suspected that the great power that had been silent was now beginning to move. The tower, dormant for 5 years, was finally showing signs of life. Realizing the impending danger, Rich immediately contacted the search party and ordered them to retreat. The emergency had begun. From Sora's point of view, he, who had been speeding up, finally arrived at the Ice City's destruction zone. As he took in his surroundings, Sora couldn't believe that his birthplace had turned into a living hell in the space of 5 years. He had once been a weak youth sent to Abyss, but after going through endless battles, he had become extremely strong. In fact, with his senses almost dulled, he almost lost his humanity and became like a beast. Only by thinking of his family did he manage to retain his humanity. Now, the monsters that used to frighten him were nothing more than a bunch of ants to him. So when he returned to Earth, his greatest hope was that his family would survive. The once bustling ice city was now nothing but rubble. Buildings were destroyed as if by a great earthquake, and there were no signs of life, let alone monsters. Since the city had supposedly been evacuated, there was probably no one left. Entering an apartment where he had once lived, Sora opened the door to a room while saying hello, hoping that someone would greet him. But as he expected, the room was empty. Still, he had not come to meet anyone, but to remember the place. Looking around the room, Sora's attention was drawn to a piece of paper on the table. When he read it, it turned out to be a message from his mother. It said that although everyone believed that Sora had disappeared, his mother refused to believe it. She had even prepared a room as if Sora would return at any moment. His mother wrote that she was sure Sora would return one day. Sora was deeply moved when he read this message. He realized that his parents had risked their lives to leave messages and memories for him. Clothes were laid out in the wardrobe and a map to Shelter 6 was left in the room. In the letter, his mother asked Sora to come and see her, as they had always looked forward to his return with love. Looking at the message and the family photos, Sora couldn't help but cry. He asked himself, how strong is he now? If he was strong enough to end this disaster, maybe he could make up for lost time. Sora decided to go to Shelter 6. According to the map, it was in the east, but the road to get there was badly damaged. Still, he couldn't waste any more time. He began to make his own way, jumping from building to building, defeating the monsters along the way. Elsewhere, two hunters were seen relaxing. One thought he heard a loud noise, but the other thought it was just a hallucination caused by being too drunk. As they talked, something suddenly rushed past them. They were shocked, unable to see clearly what had just passed. Soon after, their friend Che arrived with the camera footage. As they watched it, the trio wondered, was it human still in the vicinity? A woman was cornered. She begged the three people surrounding her for mercy. Her only reason for coming was to look for food. But the trio looked pleased, as they hadn't seen such a beautiful woman in a long time. The leader of the group, whose name was EJ, said that they were a good group and that they would look after her carefully. Although EJ said this in a friendly tone, the woman knew that their intentions were evil. She continued to beg to be released. He continued to manipulate and promise gentle treatment, but his words clearly showed that they intended to harm her. He implied that he would be the first to enjoy her beauty. As he forces himself on a woman, a voice suddenly confirms that some things never change. It turns out to be Sarah, who has just arrived and immediately calls Ahi rubbish. Her presence clearly upsets Ahi, especially as she feels she doesn't deserve the reproach after what has happened. Angrily, Ahi orders her men to arrest Sora. The two men immediately turned their weapons on Sora and attacked, but were easily defeated. Sora slapped one of them hard and kicked the other in the head. This audacity made Ahi even more furious, as she felt that her dignity as a member of the Gil Tigers Ruer had been trampled upon. She warned that her organization would not remain silent if Sora dared to disturb them. However, the figure that appeared surprised Ahi greatly. The figure asked if Ahi had forgotten the face of the person he had killed. When he recognizes him, Ahi is shocked. It is Sora Mukujima, who he thought was dead. When Ahi tries to run away, Sora immediately blocks him. Ahi trembles and asks how Sora is still alive. Without hesitation, Sora strangles him, saying that before she dies, Ahi must suffer like hell, because this is the revenge she's been seeking for so long. During her school days, Sora was the victim of Ahi's bullying, and now it's time to pay him back. However, when Sora is about to finish off Ahi, she realizes that killing her will only prolong the chain of hate. She lets Ahi go, refusing to be like her. However, Sora also knows that letting Ahi live free could endanger others. So she decides to give her a beating, one for making her school days a living hell, one for bullying the weak, and two for trying to kill her. A total of 4 strokes became the debt repayment that Ahi had to receive. Hearing this, Ahi begs for mercy, admitting that she probably won't survive the first stroke. Sora reassures her that she won't be violent, but immediately the first blow lands hard, followed by the second and third. As Ahi falls to the floor, Sora forces her to get up. Ahi can only surrender and begs Sora to end her life. To end it, Sora kicks him in the head until he loses consciousness. By then, Ahi's arms and legs were broken and her eyes were completely blind. Sora thought a lifetime of suffering would be a fitting reward. He then had Ahi's men take her to the hospital and warned her never to appear before him again. When all was said and done, Sora continued her journey home. Her revenge was over. What do you think? Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any updates from us. Thank you.